أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Early congratulations to all of you on the birth of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his grandson Imam as-Sadiq salawatullahi alayhi. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I extend my congratulations to the entire ummah of our Prophet, to all of the mu'mineen and mu'minat all over the world, to our ulama, our maraja, and especially our leader, and last but not least, to his grandson, who we await, our master, Sahib az-Zaman, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, brothers and sisters, it's been a while since we've seen each other, and to be honest, I've missed you guys. Alhamdulillah, it's been a wonderful ziyarah. I was praying for you all over there. I remembered the Hadi family in particular. But to be honest with you, as great as the ziyarah was, there is no place like home. Hadi's special, and it's a big blessing to be back here. Now, brothers and sisters, today is Friday. And on Friday, as you know, there's a special connection between this day and the master of our time. So allow me to say a few words about him before I jump into the topic. Brothers and sisters, if you pay close attention, and I'm sure we all are, paying close attention to the words of the leader, then we see in his more recent statements things that make us very hopeful. And as you know, brothers and sisters, the leader is careful with what he says. You're following his lectures, so as you've noticed, he's very precise. He avoids exaggeration, right? He knows that both his friends and his enemies are hanging on every word. So the leader, when he says something, we take it and it's very heavy. If you look at some of the more recent statements of the leader, some of the things that he's saying, you get this. We are very close to the mountaintop. And he explained what the mountaintop means. The mountaintop means, and he said this, maybe you've seen the videos, where he says, the mountaintop means the political rule of Islam over the globe. Over the globe. And he says that now we're very close. Now is not the time to get tired, to despair. Now is the time for that tireless effort, continuous jihad. Inshallah, we will get there. Hopefully, we'll be able to practically take some steps so that we hasten his reappearance with the barakah of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, brothers and sisters, tonight also is one of those wonderful nights where we get a chance to break bread together, to sit down to eat with one another. And it's natural for us here as the Hadi family, we don't get enough time to see each other during the week, so it's natural when we do finally get a chance to sit down to talk, we naturally go to our friends, those who we haven't seen, we missed each other. But brothers and sisters, this is a celebration. I want us to remember our responsibility. If there are new faces, brothers and sisters, if there are new faces, make sure you also go over to those individuals who sit with those individuals. Even better than that, invite them to come and sit with you and your friends. That will be something which will be very pleasing to our Prophet and something that inshallah we will take as a responsibility. Not just to see our friends, but actually invite others so that they also get a chance to sit with us. Now, Brothers and sisters, today's topic. Now, today's topic, although this is such an incredible opportunity to talk about Imam Sadiq, to talk about our Prophet, and there's no way, even if we were to put the whole speech and make it be about these personalities, to do justice to them. And then tonight, we actually have a topic, Brother mentioned. We're following along, or we're picking back up where we left off on our previous topics. So we were working on developing a Quranic aqeedah, to believe as the Quran tells us to believe, so that we become effective for the Imam of the time. And the topic is actually, later on when we pick up the book, when we read, it's called Tawheed and the Abolition of Social Classes. Now, brothers and sisters, we get a lot more out of these lectures when we do the heavy lifting ourselves, which would mean that we would also rereading the chapters. After that chapter, then it's the psychological effects of Tawheed. But I would encourage brothers and sisters, now that you know what the topic is, inshallah, for the next lecture, to make sure that we read up ahead of time so that we're able to get more benefit than that. But, brothers and sisters, although that's the topic, allow me to say a few words about our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, as you know, we normally like to look at some of the ayat of the Quran together. It's true we know these are ayat of the Quran, but it's nice for us to read the ayat together. I want to mention one of the ayat, and I want to share that verse with you. We'll look at it together, and then after that, inshallah, we'll talk a little bit about the towering personality of our Prophet and our responsibility towards him. Brothers and sisters, can you help me see if I've quoted this verse correctly? Can you turn to Surah 21? Surah 21 and verse number 107. So 21, 107, I'm going to quote a verse of Quran for you. Brothers and sisters, help me out. Do you see this verse that I'm quoting for you? Or maybe I made a mistake. We'll have to get some help from the audience. Do you guys see? So 21, 107. Do you see this? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ. Do you all see that? Yes? All right, good. Let's look at the Arabic together. There is barakah in looking at the Arabic, even if we don't understand the meaning. We're going to understand the meaning. But the words of God, God speaking to us, there's something special even about the words. So let's look at the words together. God says this about our Prophet. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ. And we did not send you. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا. Except rahmatan lil alameen. Except as a mercy to the worlds. As a mercy to the worlds. Brothers and sisters, we are very fortunate to be part of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Now, as I mentioned, this is early congratulations. Inshallah, on the day of, we will make it a celebration, not only for ourselves, for our children. It will be an Eid. It'll be memorable. Inshallah, here at the school we'll do that. For all of us in our families, we will do that on the day of. The day of, brothers and sisters, was an incredible day. The night that preceded it was also incredible. Allow me to remind you of some of the things that happened 1400 years ago. So, if you remember, when the Prophet was about to be born, there was a lot of movement in the constellations, in the cosmos. There was so much meteor activity, comets. Some who were in Mecca at that time feared that it is Yawmul Qiyamah. So much activity. One of the Yahud who knew the signs of prophethood, he knew who our prophet was. He saw all of these activities and he had read the signs. They were in the books. He said, tonight a prophet is going to be born. He's the last messenger of God. When our Prophet finally, when Allah blessed this world with his physical presence, there were several events that took place. There was a fire that had been burning in Iran for 1,000 years. They were worshiping fire, unfortunately. That fire suddenly was extinguished. There were 14 balconies of the Persian Empire, one of the kingdoms of that time, the superpowers of that time, the Persian Empire. There were 14 balconies that collapsed. The idols, because our Prophet came here for Tawheed, the idols suddenly fell flat on their faces. Over 300 idols in the Kaaba on that day fell flat on their faces. Now, brothers and sisters, the honest reality is this. We are not capable of knowing the haqiqah or the reality of Rasulullah. We aren't capable of knowing his reality. What we know of our Prophet is a drop in the bucket, a drop of that towering personality. And we aren't capable of fully knowing him. Amirul Mu'mineen knew him. God knew him. But the little bit of ma'rifah that we do have, that drop in the bucket, was sufficient for us. Sufficient for us. Why? We human beings needed a perfect, practical role model. We needed to be able to see human perfection, the pinnacle. How great can someone be? Now, it's true, we don't fully understand the Prophet, but even that small amount that we know of our Prophet was sufficient for us to know what human perfection is. So I'm going to quote a verse of Quran for you. And brothers and sisters, again, I want brothers and sisters, let's read the verse with me. The Arabic is special. God chose these words. Brothers and sisters, can you go with me? Look at Surah number 33. So Surah number 33, Surah Ahzab, and verse number 21, and see if I'm quoting this verse correctly. Brothers and sisters, do you see in the verse? So Surah 33 and verse number 21. Do you see this? لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ. Do y'all see that? Okay. So let's read the verse together. God is saying with emphasis here. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ. Definitely for you. فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. In the messenger of Allah. Uswatun hasana. Is a beautiful role model. An incredible role model in Rasulullah. So brothers and sisters, what we're going to do is talk about two of our duties, just very briefly. We have many responsibilities to Rasulullah. It's a great blessing to be part of his ummah, but there's responsibilities. I'm going to mention two of the responsibilities, of the many responsibilities that we have towards Rasulullah. And one of them is this. We need to, as Muslims, familiarize ourselves with this great personality. It's true we know Rasulullah to a certain extent. If we want to do our duty to Rasulullah, each and every one of us, we need to work on greater familiarizing ourselves with the Prophet. Let's get to know the Prophet more. We need to know everything that we can about this man collectively. That's on all of us, right? So we need to know our Prophet in every dimension. We need to know him as a worshiper of God, as an abid. We need to know him as an ascetic who is detached from the dunya, as a zahid. We need to know him as one of Allah's awliya, as a saint. We also need to know the practical side of the Prophet. Our Prophet as a family man. Our Prophet as a father. Our Prophet as a husband. Every single dimension for us, we need to learn about our Prophet, including his social and political side. We also need to know about him as that charismatic, visionary leader, as the astute politician, as the fearless general, Let me quote for you something that has been mentioned that Imam Sajjad said about Rasulullah, just for us to understand a little bit more and appreciate who he was. This is what the Imam says in this hadith about our Prophet. He says, Kunna nu'allimu maghaziya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We, Ahlul Bayt, we used to teach the battles of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, kama nu'allim a surah min al-Quran. The same way that for us, every surah, very important, every ayah, but every part of the Prophet's character and dimension, even his battles. The Prophet as that fearless general, what did he do? What were lessons that we learned? So that was one of our duties to our Prophet, but that's not our only duty. Our second duty, brothers and sisters, not only to learn about the Prophet, to introduce the Prophet to the world. Not only to learn about the Prophet, but to introduce the Prophet to the world. Brothers and sisters, we should not forget about our responsibility when it comes to the clarification jihad. This is on each and every one of us, to push back against the onslaught of the enemies of Islam, to defend Islam and what we know are true, what we know is true. We have to, that's on all of us, to push back against the enemies of Islam, right? We welcome conversations, and we want to get the people of the world to think. We want to get them to think. Sometimes you don't have to spell everything out for people. You get them to think. You introduce. You start the conversations. You allow things to take its natural course. Can I tell you guys a story that inshallah is not true? It's an Eid, so inshallah it's okay. They said, and inshallah it's not true, there was a king and he had a falcon, a hunting falcon. And this king loved his falcon. I mean, he adored the falcon. To the extent that he told his inner circle, if anybody ever tells me the falcon is dead, I'll have him killed. I'll have him killed. One day, unfortunately, the falcon died. And now the people are stuck. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. It's nobody's fault, but he's dead now. What happens if the king finds out? How do we control the narrative? But then who can tell the king? If you tell him, you'll be killed. They're stuck. They went and they found one daring person. His name was Baba. They told Baba. They said, can you tell the king? He said, sure, I'll tell the king. They paid him a king's ransom, a large sum of money, and Baba went to the castle. And Baba would just sit around. He was waiting for the opportunity. One time, people were gathered around the king, and they started to discuss falcons. And the king started to brag about his falcon. And Baba said, oh, now's the time. And the king was talking about how great his falcon was. And then Baba said, but you know, your falcon doesn't eat. And the king said, what? My falcon doesn't eat? He said, he doesn't drink either. He said, what do you mean he doesn't drink? He said, he doesn't fly either. He said, what do you mean? Is he dead? Baba stood up. He looked the king dead in the eyes. He said, you said it, king. I didn't. Sometimes we just want people to think. We push back. We ask questions. We introduce. We let people come to conclusions. The clarification jihad, brothers and sisters, has great thawab. Let me give you a hadith from Imam al-Ridha, alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Our Imam said this, may Allah have mercy on the servant who revives our affair. May Allah have mercy on the servant who revives our affair. who prepares the grounds for the coming of the Imam. One of the believers said, how do we revive your affair? What do we do? Words of the Imam now. The Imam says this, keep in mind the clarification jihad. What's our duty? Hadith. يَتَعَلَّمُ عُلُومَنَا. You want to revive the affair of the Ahlul Bayt? He learns our teachings. Clarification jihad. What else? وَيُعَلِّمُهَا النَّاسِ. One, you learn, but then two, you share. وَيُعَلِّمُهَا النَّاسِ. You talk to the masses, you share. If you do that, what happens? The Imam says, فَإِنَّ النَّاسِ. If only the masses, لَوْ عَلِمُوا مَحَاسِنَ كَلَامِنَا. If they knew the beauty of our words, the masses knew the beauty of our words, لَتَّبِعُونَا. They would follow us. But here we get to be creative, brothers and sisters. We get to be creative. Maybe we'll do it online. Maybe we'll do it with social media. Maybe we'll do it with conversations. You and I, that's us being creative, we push back. Why is the seerah of the Prophet so important? This is now from the leader. He says, if the masses, the people of the world, knew the Prophet even to the extent that we do, even that drop in the bucket that I said, we don't know Rasulullah as he is. Even to that extent, the leader says even less than that. If they knew your Prophet, the masses would be attracted to Islam. So brothers and sisters, oh by the way, and we only have a few minutes left, but you know and I know that several Muslims were killed for celebrating the birthday of a prophet, right? In Pakistan, the mu'mineen, several of the Muslims were celebrating the birthday of the prophet, and the takfirists murdered over 50 Muslims. Over 70 people lost their lives. We're able to celebrate here, alhamdulillah, in peace. Let's remember, let's recite Surah Al-Fatiha for departed souls of those Muslims, and of course all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, those who have left us and are no longer with us. We start with Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, Tawheed and the abolition of social classes. So inshallah, we're going to read the book ourselves. We'll get more out of the lecture when we read it ourselves. Part of our training. Islam teaches us, this is just one of the gifts of the Tawheed that the Prophet brought. The Tawheed of the Prophet teaches us that we are all Bani Adam. All Bani Adam. We're all equal under the law. The laws and the rules applies to all of us, right? But let's back ourselves up before we get into the main topic. There were certain things that we learned about Tawheed from before. We need to keep these in mind to fully appreciate today's lesson. Tawheed in Islam, brothers and sisters, isn't just a mental construct. It's not just mental acrobatics. It's not just a belief. It comes with responsibilities. The responsibilities, because we said Tawheed it's a covenant. The covenant of Tawheed, those responsibilities that are on our shoulders, the majority of them are social responsibilities. The majority of the commitments are social responsibilities. Imam Khomeini, may Allah bless his soul, he said if you look at the ayat of the Quran, the verses, the ayat, which are talking about social responsibilities, and compare those with the ones that are purely talking about our individual rituals and worships. The quote is in that book, Islamic Government by Imam Khomeini, may Allah bless his soul. The ratio of Quranic verses that talk about social issues is greater than that of 100 to 1. The ayat of the Quran are talking about social responsibilities. I can't pretend to be following Islam and then not engage in my social and my political responsibilities. So I'm going to end with this, and inshallah the next will continue. This isn't what we learned about Tawheed before. We're going to come to today's conclusion, and then we'll stop. Tawheed meant, because it wasn't just in my mind and my heart. Tawheed meant, one, we serve or we worship none other than Allah. We worship none other than Allah. Number two, we serve and obey none other than Allah. We came to these conclusions before. Number three, we reject all idols, whether it be stone and clay idols or human beings masquerading as God. This is why we end up butting heads with the Tawaghit. And then today's lesson was going to be, and inshallah we'll talk this next time, the idea that Tawheed introduces a classless society, a society without classes, but inshallah that's for another time. We end with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.